Thank you for asking us to speak this morning. My name is Erin Vader, and I'm the Communication and Public Engagement Manager for the City of Olathe. And I'm joined by Vanessa Vaughn-West, and Vanessa is our Community Relations Manager, about 2 months on the job, but came in and has just hit the ground running, and so she has a lot of great success stories already to share with you. Kathy and I were visiting this morning. It was very timely. The Kansas City Star did a 913 feature on our Persons with Disabilities Advisory Board. And if you have a chance this week, you might just thumb through that. We'll hit on that a little bit, but it's a great example of kind of a grassroots community effort to ensure that we're involving everyone in our community and an underserved group, those with disabilities, and the stories that have come out of that group and the energy and enthusiasm that is supported by the city but really is based in community engagement and involvement. Oh, you've got it. Great. So there you have it, right back there. We're really happy and excited to talk about. The things that we have in store for you today are things that we've tried in Olathe. Some things have worked, some haven't. And so we don't profess to have all the answers, but we certainly will share with you our successes and our trials and tribulations, and we look forward to learning from you all too. So just a little bit about our journey. It's been one that's been very intentional and systematic. We realize we have a very diverse community. Over 82 languages are spoken in our school district, and our history really is one of diversity. If you look at the Olathe community, we're the home to the Kansas School for the Deaf, one of the oldest Kansas public education institutes in the state. And so it's rooted in our history, and it's rooted in what we've done to involve those that are deaf or hard of hearing in community decision making and ensuring they're included on boards and committees and that they have a seat at the table and that we're meeting their needs too. So we've done things like invest in all of our public meetings are captioned. We know that's important to that community. When we have public meetings, we ensure that we also have sign language interpreters there. And so this is something that we've it's grown with us as a community as the community has grown and diversified. We're also home to one of the first fully integrated cemeteries, and that dates back to the Civil War. And so, social inclusion is very broad and very deep. And so we're going to give you some examples today of what we're doing in Olathe, and I'm going to turn it over to Vanessa.
Sure. Thank you, Erin. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking with you all about our Olathe Human Relations Commission, and this is a group that is very, very unique to our city in that it really had its roots in the civil rights era. As you all remember, during that time, there was national and local concern for equality and inclusion and making sure that everyone experienced the same opportunities and fairness, and those things, of course, have not changed, but because of that, Olathe was really proactive in committing resources and time to beginning this Human Relations Commission. And so this group is comprised of citizens, volunteer citizens, who apply to really be the voice of our community, representing the varied demographics, whether that's age, ethnicity, and they come together to in the beginning, it was really to set policy and to really find ways to make sure that everyone had equal access to housing, that they had the same opportunities for employment, that the city was also utilizing fair practices in our hiring and city contracts. That has evolved, and we'll talk a little bit about where we see the future of this group going. But this has been a really integral and I think authentic voice for everyone to be involved. These folks who serve on this committee are really seen as and really are truly local leaders, constituents that neighbors and other community members can come to with concerns, and people that will be there to either take complaints to the mayor or city council, or to work as a group to solve those issues through policy and through communication with others. All right, so I'm going to continue with some additional examples. And Erin spoke a little bit about this, but from the beginning, Olathe has recognized inclusion not to just mean what I think a lot of times the traditional focus is on ethnicity. The city has really focused on disability and making sure that people of all physical abilities, mental abilities have the chance to participate in community through ideas, through access, and through just the basic ability of being able to get around. And so as a spinoff of the Human Relations Commission, the Persons with Disabilities Advisory Board was started. And really this group, again, volunteers, came together to work to promote a more disabled-friendly community. That has involved partnerships with the schools, with commerce, with the city to really improve access for people with various disabilities at all levels. And so I wanted to highlight, you'll see the KC Ability Expo and the Disability Mentoring Day. These are two key events really that are sponsored by the Persons with Disabilities Advisory Board. The Kansas City Ability Expo is a really unique program. It's the largest, I believe, in the area, where we bring together disability providers, so folks who have wheelchairs or customizable bicycles, things like that come together, as well as nonprofits that cater to that community, to have all of these resources in one place so that folks who might be searching for disabled-friendly activities can come to this expo, which was started by a Girl Scout working on her senior service project, can come together and find them at this KC Ability Expo. Disability Mentoring Day is something that this group has also shown ownership of by really bringing together all the players to help folks who are looking for employment be able to mentor folks and see the possibilities of jobs that they could have within Olathe and throughout the metro. And then in the bottom there you see some bikers. And this is a really unique program that is part of a national fraternity that has their philanthropy that is related to disability awareness. And so it was formerly known as Push America. Now it has a different name, but the focus of this group is to bike around the U.S. with a stop in Olathe, and really to raise awareness about the importance and need for inclusion for the disabled community. And so what the Persons with Disabilities Board does is they welcome the folks. They take them to events within the city. They show them the resources that we're able to offer in our city, and it's become a great partnership. And I think that group has great pride in the ownership of being the host group for the Push America. I also wanted to share with you a little bit about the second success story. The OHRC, the group we talked a little bit about earlier, has an annual Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. And this is another great example of how we're involving kids through the Olathe Public Schools in understanding and participating in Dr. King's legacy. And so OHRC started this program, I think, 15 years ago by having a simple essay contest where they invited students to really just share their thoughts. In the beginning, they had, I think, a handful of entries, maybe 20 or so, and now that contest has exploded to more than 5,000 entries. So what we do is that group takes the lead in establishing a theme. They work with the schools to get submissions in the categories of essay, visual, and mixed media. There is a big celebration that is held at one of the public schools where parents and teachers and community members come to celebrate the contributions of the students. And it's really the type of event that the entire community feels very proud of. And we've heard such great anecdotal stories about how this event has opened the eyes of parents and students in terms of just understanding diversity a lot more. So the growth and success of this program, I think, is one of the great things that OHRC has brought to the table and to the Olathe community. So next I wanted to share a little bit about our future and what we're doing to kind of impact and to bring in some new voices to achieve the concept I think we were probably all striving for, which is this one community aspect, making sure that everybody has a voice and making sure that stakeholders of all diversities can contribute. And so my role, Erin mentioned, I've been here for about almost 2 months now, is to really help with that. And so we have a vision of really being a model city where people can be engaged, all people. And so as you guys know, I've heard a little bit about it today. We had these challenges of reaching out to diverse groups, making sure that we hear their voices, and making sure that everybody can thrive. And so that's really what my role is going to be with the city. And we're going to do that by some of the things that you've seen, and I think you guys are probably doing, whether that is social outreach, physical kind of doorstep inclusion, these boards and committees that we've been talking about, really connecting folks to city services. One of the things that I'm going to be doing is working with all of the city departments to make sure that we are communicating with each other, I think is often a challenge, and making sure that we're reaching out to people and hearing them and responding to their needs with one collective voice. So we all know that when folks work together, they achieve more. We wanted to give a few quick examples of how that's happening in Olathe.
A lot of this will be sort of complementing what we've already talked about today, because a lot of this is about communication and it's about community collaboration. And you have inclusion, you have strong communication, you have strong engagement. So the city is very proud. July, we got our very first community center, a town of 130,000, and we're just now getting a community center. But the whole idea behind that was that we would have a gathering place for people to come together, and certainly there's recreation opportunities and an awesome aquatic center, and it's an award-winning building, but it's really about community. And so we've seen great success with that center and with people coming together that may not have had a place to gather before, especially our senior population, where, you know, that is one area I think we struggle as a community to embrace, and it continues to just, we continue to age as a community. And so having a location where those, where individuals can gather and identify common interests and get, you know, celebrate that together is a great opportunity. The other thing that we have is a very engaged police and fire department, and we're fortunate for that. So we talked a little bit about Next Door today. Our police department actually took the lead on the city's efforts with that. And in less than the year that we've been on Next Door, we have over 5,000 homes that are utilizing that communication channel. So it's really opening the door and bridging the gap and creating conversations with groups that may not have existed before. Our police department's also doing things like having community discussions. So they just had one last month at the community center where anyone could come and talk about any issues or concerns they have. They've done some similar conversations with groups like the NAACP. They've talked to our youth in the community and invited them to come and talk about what are concerns for you? What's the police department doing right? What can we do better? And so opening that dialogue with various groups within our community, again, just helps kind of bridge the gap and move us forward. Some of the other things that you'll see here on the right corner, our mayor has a Mayor's Christmas Tree Fund, very successful initiative that he established several years ago with the help of community partners, and you'll hear a lot about partnership throughout this presentation. So again, a small board, he calls it his group of big-hearted bigwigs, and they've raised this year over $180,000 that stays in the Olathe community. So the best part of the story is youth in the community raised 20% of that fund through a penny drive. So awesome results, and really a great example of people helping people. And then finally, just sort of the youth component of this. We are very fortunate to have an awesome partnership with our school district, and to have a school district within a city, and there's some, you know, outside of Olathe and various neighboring cities, but we have a great relationship and partnership. And so what we're able to do with that is start that youth leadership and engagement at a very young level. So we have a youth court, we have a teen council, and we have a youth congress that's sort of evolving and shifting focus, loosely modeled after the three branches of government, where we get youth engaged at a young age in what's going on in their communities. And so you'll see our teen council, a group of about 15 students, actively identifying issues in their community that they would like to address, and then coming up with solutions to those issues and working with their peers to do that. So an awesome story of young leaders who also recognize the need to have diversity among their membership. And so that's kind of another story that is we'll talk a little further about.
So in the past 10 years, Olathe has seen more than a 600% growth in their Latino population. And right now that population represents about 10% of the community, many of whom are recent immigrants, folks who are not only new to Olathe, but new to the United States in general. And so we were seeing a lot of challenges. We were wanting to help those folks to become more comfortable in their new home. And really what we found about the Latino population in Olathe is that these are not migrant families who are just coming here transitionally. These are folks who really are looking to settle in the Kansas City metropolitan area and have chosen Olathe as a place for their home. And so in response to that, we had the mayor, in fact, wanted to bring community leaders together in order to help find solutions to make that experience for the Latino community more robust, more inclusive, and for the community to really understand all of the wonderful opportunities we had with the new influx of the immigrants to Olathe. So he began this initiative called the Olathe Latino Coalition about maybe 2 years, 2011. And it really has evolved to include not just folks from city government, but it's really now a partnership between faith leaders, nonprofit folks, business and educators to really work together in order to have one voice that respects and celebrates the Latino culture that is new, and then to help folks to help the city to better listen and react to the needs of and expectations and dreams of the Latino community. So the Latino Coalition created a survey where they went out and they asked Latino residents kind of what they were looking for, what were their needs, what were some of the biggest concerns and wants that they had for their community. And then they used that information to create action plans on housing and to really focus on, establishing trust and eliminating discrimination. And so this group has done things like, for the first time last year, we had a Hispanic Heritage Month celebration that really was a great partnership with the library and with organizations like El Centro and others to really bring this group in. And so I'll let Erin share a little bit more about that.
One of the things that's come out of this are recommendations for key areas within the community. And so we're working with the group now as a city organization and sort of the convener of this group to identify the feasibility of those recommendations. So as an example, the communicators in this room will appreciate this. Our website, we have a Google Translate option. So if you speak another language, you can just click a button and it's translated. One of the concerns of the Latino community is it's a great service, but it's not always accurate. So we're requesting that you translate your entire website into Spanish. Well, we're not sure about the feasibility of that, but we'll look into it. I can tell you we're in the process of updating our website, and it is not cheap, as you know. So, you have to, it's weighing, it's the cost-benefit piece of this. But that's just one recommendation that's come out of the communication side and the government side of this. There's recommendations in the areas of public safety and justice, faith-based, education, commerce and business. And so now as a community and as stakeholder groups come together, they're looking at ways that we can implement ideas that have come out of 3 years now worth of work and research and input and moving forward. And then what we hope to do is use this as a model as our community continues to grow and develop and diversify for ways to engage other segments of our community. So with that, I don't know if we have time for questions, but we're certainly willing to take them and hear your ideas and thoughts.
So are there questions? Yeah.
I have a question for Erin. It sounds like there's lots of really good things going on in Olathe. One of the things you alluded to when you talked about your new community center, you sort of said in passing that it was going to create a venue for older citizens or residents to gather, but it sounded like that maybe hadn't completely taken hold. And I'd be interested in hearing how you all are thinking about social isolation in your older population, because one of the things we know about baby boomers is we don't think we're like anybody else that's getting old. I'm not going to go to a senior center because I'm not a senior. So I'm just curious about how you think about, as family support systems continue to change, and I'm guessing you, like all the other communities in the city, are seeing an increase in the numbers of people over the age of 65. How are you thinking about the risk of social isolation, because what we've heard from other communities as we've done work with Kathy is one of the challenges that can occur. I don't have family support. I don't go to the senior center, but I'm going to call the police because I've got a problem, or I'm going to call somebody in the city because I don't know how to handle something. So that, just how are you all thinking about that phenomenon?
Yeah, and I think, I'm not sure how far along in that journey we are. A couple things I know that are working well for us. You talk about that social isolation piece, and that's something that, we struggle with, because you do see exactly the situations you talk about. A phone call to 911 to say, I need help with something that really isn't an emergency. So our police department, for example, has set up a program, Operation Lifeline, where volunteers call every day to people in the community that don't have that local support and check on their well-being and welfare. And so it's a simple call, it's once a day. That's one way, but really what you're alluding to is getting out in the community and staying active and staying informed and involved, and we don't have that answer yet. I think we're trying to get our arms around that. So I think in the next year or so, we'll be seeing some focus groups put together. We know one thing we hear a lot of is we'd love to come, but we don't have transportation. And so we've got to get our arms around that and what that looks like in a community that doesn't have a great deal of public transportation. We have a taxi coupon program, which is another great option for those who have some income challenges, but we're also talking about seniors who don't have those challenges. So we have a lot of research to do, we have a lot of people to talk to, but it's definitely something that we have, we've got our eyes on it, and that's what I have for you.
Just a quick follow-on. So for the Lifeline program, how do you identify people because they're contacting the city and then invite them to be a participant in that, or how do you identify people and how do they become enrolled?
So we try to publicize it a lot, especially around times of extreme hot and cold temperatures when we know people are more apt to have accidents and such. So we'll put it in our resident newsletter that we know is read by 95% of our residents, and we'll make it available and ensure that people know and hopefully reach those who have relatives that may not be in the area, that they can say, hey, my mother lives in Olathe, could you help provide this service? So there are times where we have an abundance of volunteers and not enough recipients of the service, and there are times that the opposite is the case. But really just ensuring that we're putting that information out in all the avenues that we can.
I just wanted to add that a resource for dealing with isolation is neighborhood associations. And one of the big reasons that we chose older neighborhoods was because, again, high population, and we've just seen dramatic improvements in people relying on neighbors for resources instead of calling 911, and instead of looking to the city, they are organizing to help each other. And that's helped both socially and then in terms of other kinds of city services.
Other questions for Erin or Vanessa?
When it comes to the Olathe Latino Coalition, how long did it take you to get that set up? Like, how long have you been working on that to get it to where it is today?
Karen Johnson's in the room. So we have kind of a long history of this. The city put some resources and invested in diversity-related issues, back in mid-2000s before everything tanked and we really had to look at what were our most important services to offer to our residents. But the Olathe Latino Coalition specifically, the conversation started in 2011, and the city at the time said, we have a responsibility and we have a role in this, but this is really a community conversation. So we'll take on the role of convener, and we'll invest in hiring a consultant to come in and really get us through the process. So that piece probably took 6 months, but we just now got the report. So what started in, I'm going to say, early 2012 has taken us over 2 years to get through some of these dialogues and discussions in the various segments that were identified. So it's been a process, and it's certainly not over, but we hope to have some good outcomes for it and use it as a best case, a best practice moving forward.
Other questions? I do want to open it up to your contributions of social inclusion programs your communities might have undertaken. And I want to broaden it. One thing Erin, I think, mentioned about partnerships, but we haven't talked a lot about outside partnerships. So I know there's shepherd centers. There was just a nice article in the 816 about the Northlands Shepherd Center. I know Raytown works with their shepherd center. So are there examples of partnerships with community organizations?
Not necessarily a specific community organization, but in our city, something we've really tapped into, and it was something that was really brought to us, was the faith community has been huge. You know, with limited resources, the recession, things like that, trying to decide what are the most important functions. And we had a group of faith leaders about probably a year or two ago that basically came to the city and said, what do you guys need? How can we help? We want to make an impact. And so we've set up these sort of 4 or 5 core groups, whether it's emergency preparedness or education, and they meet on a regularly, about a quarterly basis, get together and discuss what has been done, what can be done, where there are issues, and that has been a huge help because that has helped in areas where we may want to help, but we don't have the resources or staff time to do so, and it's been invaluable to us.
Have they been helpful too in communication, like when you want to get
I think
word
it's-
out on something?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's also helped sort of the, and I know this has always been around, but certainly recently, the mistrust of how government spends money and time and projects. So they've been hugely helpful, I think, in getting their congregations, getting the communities they work within to understand the work that is actually going on for the betterment of the community. So they've been hugely helpful in that.
Other examples you'd like to share with us? Well, I want to thank everybody. I think we're about out of time. I first want to thank all the speakers for sharing with us, and thank you for coming.